organisation. So local area coordination is all about strengths and assets and contribution, family leadership, control and choice, and how can we think of different ways of doing that. Equally, how do we work with services and get the two working quite closely together for a much bigger added value. At the same time, we know there's a whole lot of things that happen in the community that are fantastic. However, many people that we come into contact with have difficulty accessing or being part of that. So earlier today you've talked about things like time banks, or there could be letting schemes, local exchange schemes, or there could be just local citizens that have a lot to offer that people with disabilities or their families might find it difficult to connect. So there's a huge thing around let's find out what our community has, let's find out what each person has and their family. So we sort of have a bit of thinking around 3 steps in local area coordination. Let's find out what the person can do for themselves, so all their gifts, their strengths, their experiences, their connections, with the assumption, the inbuilt assumption that everyone has something to offer. No matter what your service label, no matter what your disability or your circumstances, you have skills, experience and contributions you can make. So let's find out about that first. Underneath that, let's also find out about what your neighbours have, your friends, your families, your connections and the wider community. What does a community have to offer and what can you offer the community? So again, everyone can contribute. The last bit is what is the role of services? When we've sorted out all of that, where does services fit in? So rather than services being the first question, services is the last question. And we're doing a lot of work around, well, how can we make services really responsive, really personal, and also thinking about assets and community at the same time when they do come in for the intervention. Intervention is a bit of a problematic word, but when services do get involved, how do we make that really valuable for people as well? So that's the sort of approach that local area coordination is interested in. So then we come to a local area coordinator. So that's a person working under the principles of local area coordination and strength or asset-based thinking. So we have a whole range of connected things that a local area coordinator does. And when you break it down into roles, there are a whole range of connected roles that traditionally 7, 8 or 9 or 10 different professionals would normally do. Now given that local families and local people with disabilities talk about the complexity of the system and too many people being involved in my life is part of the problem, this was a very intentional approach. Let's take all the feedback, take all the learning over 20, 30, 40 years and think about how to operationalise it in a way that makes sense for families and communities. So let's simplify it. A single point of contact is part of it. So someone in your community who's really easy to talk to and really easy to access. And they're also doing a whole range of things that traditionally you might have to speak to 10 people about. So starting is the most important thing a local area coordinator can do is take time to get to know the person, to get to know the family, and to get to know the community.